What's up, everyone, and welcome to The Plot Strikes Back. Nick here to talk about Venom 3, The Last Dance. There will be spoilers, but if you don't care, well, let's go ahead and proceed. So this movie had about a $120 million budget, a little bit more than Let There Be Carnage, Venom 2. Right now, it's at $316.8 million worldwide, almost $90 million of that coming from domestic and $227 million coming from internationally. So this is clearly doing better across the globe as opposed to being here in the United States. And it probably needs somewhere around $300 to $400 million if you include marketing, which that information has not yet been released, but perhaps it will be in the next couple of months. And then we should be able to determine whether or not this movie actually made a profit or not. And because this is the last film in the Venom trilogy, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Overall, if you're looking for a good Venom comic book movie, this isn't really it. And obviously, we knew from the first movie it wasn't going to be comic book accurate. Now, some people just love these films because it's a fun time. Venom is a great character overall. Tom Hardy is a great actor. And if that's good enough for you, then by all means, go see this movie. But if you're looking for something for a little more context, I don't know if I would recommend seeing it in the theaters, especially with some theater prices being $15 to $20 to $25 depending on what type of theater you see it in and where you're seeing it. If you want to go see a matinee or like a Tuesday, $5 Tuesday or $10 Tuesday type of movie, do that instead, or wait for it to come to a streaming platform or maybe digitally where you can rent or buy it at a cheaper option. We have some new characters like Judo Temple. We see Chiwetel Ejiofor, who also played Mordo in the MCU, plays Rex Strickland, a general that's in charge of gathering all symbiotes for Area 55, a secret area that's under Area 51, which they're trying to dismantle via acid. Now, this movie is pretty short. I believe it's about an hour and 40 minutes. But I want to say it without credits, it was probably about an hour and 30 minutes. It felt short, but I also feel like half this movie could have been cut and maybe rewritten to involve a more fleshed out story. Venom and Eddie want to go see Lady Liberty at some point. They're on the run because they have been charged with killing Detective Patrick Mulligan from Let There Be Carnage. But as we see, he is well alive within Area 55, being held captive and being fused with a symbiote, a teal symbiote who was basically Lasher. And they don't talk about any other symbiotes. They don't talk about how these other symbiotes have names. They don't talk about the identity or the human that they fused with, who their hosts are. There's none of that. And the best part of this movie was the third act. There were some parts here or there that were kind of cool, maybe a little bit of a darker edge. There was more comedy in this movie than I thought there was going to be, than I kind of hoped there would be. I think there's been too much comedy in a lot of these comic book movies, and I get it. I've read plenty of comics my entire life where there is comedy here and there, but to have an entire movie that's comedy based, that doesn't really bode well. And there's a good bit of action as well. There's some good CGI, some good graphics, of course, some funny parts of Venom, the symbiote fusing with a fish, a frog, a bird, a horse. And obviously he's done that in the comic books. But I think for the sake of battling an enemy like Null, which we see for about 60 seconds total, but don't worry, because of the mid-credit scene, we will know that he's going to come out and have a bigger part at some point in time, voiced and mocap by the GOAT, Andy Serkis. I just hope the capacity we see him in is a very, very big, monumental, universal type threat, bigger than Thanos, bigger than Doctor Doom, and Secret War, which I would imagine he comes in after Secret War. I don't know if he's going to be the big bad in Spider-Man 4. I think that's underneath him. I think based on how this movie ends with Venom being no more and Eddie actually being able to go to New York and see Lady Liberty, it's like now we're actually going to see the Eddie Brock that might be more comic book accurate while he's in New York. Now we'll see him maybe see Peter Parker. And I imagine he'll get the Venom symbiote back at some point, and that he's going to remember Venom, or that there's a sliver of Venom that was left on a bar in Mexico from a different time period or different portal, a different universe that's going to remember Eddie Brock. Now, for the types of symbiotes that were in this, we see Agony, who's with Dr. Teddy Payne, Juno Temple. We see Toxin, who is fused with Patrick Mulligan. We see Lasher, who actually the host name was fitting because that's what the comics were from in 2019. Sadie Christmas because she wears this Christmas badge. We see Phage, we see Scream, we see this like, you know, kind of fused two-headed symbiotes. But the funny thing is, none of them make it. They all die because of this xenophage that's sent from the Dark Abyss, from Null, is basically eating them because he has a wood chipper type mouth with a ton of teeth and just spits them out the back of its head, and that's it. And that's basically what happens to all the symbiotes. Agony is still alive though, so I don't know if we'll ever see Agony with Juno Temple to any capacity. We might. Really depends on how things kind of fuse with the other movies, but I'm not entirely sure how I feel about this movie. I didn't leave the theater thinking like, oh my god, that was so amazing, I loved it. But it wasn't like that was complete dog doo-doo. I'm somewhere right in the middle of it all. I've seen a lot of people online give it like, you know, a little bit of a higher score, around like an 80 percentile. Cinema Score give like a B-, which is essentially an 80. I think that's being a bit too nice. And again, this isn't anything about any of the actors. It's just simple plot and story. I'm more around the like 60% in terms of a rating goes. Again, I think things could have been done a lot better, where you're not having to just, you know, rush things or go through these lulls within a short film. I think things could have been fleshed out a little bit more, focused more on the symbiotes, you know, focus more on the threat. And obviously, yeah, Venom is being chased from Mexico to Area 51 from the xenophage, and that's it basically. Like, it's not a lot to it. It's not a deep plot, but none of these movies ever had a deep plot to begin with, so it might be worth waiting for it to come out to digitally or a streaming platform to watch it. But again, if you just like to watch stuff from Tom Hardy, go to the theater. Like I said before, maybe a cheap theater, cheaper showing, matinee, do whatever you want. All that being said, Tom Hardy is great as Venom, but I think we could see a better performance from Tom Hardy once we see more of his story being fleshed out more with Peter Parker, with Spider-Man. And obviously, to be accurate, we need to see Peter Parker get the black symbiote first and then get rid of it. And then boom, Eddie Brock finds it. They remember something, a little bit, anything. And then they kind of go back to normal. And then we see two iconic characters finally go at it between Spidey and Venom. That's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think about Venom if you did see it, or if you're going to see it, or if you're not going to see it. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you will, follow me on Twitter or X at PlotStrikesBack, and be sure to stay tuned for more content here on the YouTube channel. And I'll catch you next time here on The Plot Strikes Back. Cheers, everyone.